think back, fall 2020, early September through mid-November. What does that have to do with what's happening right now? This Mercury retrograde occurs within the same degrees as the Mars retrograde of 2020. What things did Mars come along and ruin? And what fallout are you still dealing with? Aries is a place in your life where you're the main character. And what it requires for success is you spinning up this whole world around you. When things start to change and you start to exert yourself and communicate differently, the people who've always known you are going to get uncomfortable. Mercury will be retrograding through the middle and end of Aries. This has to do with creating a world of your own through how you communicate or what you deliver or like what you're serving. And then creating a virtuousness around you as leader of that world. The realm of Aries can have something to do with impatience. And with Mercury retrogrades, things take longer than they're supposed to. So there will be this interplay of like, hurry up and do the thing. So giving space to whatever the thing is, to allow it to spin out its errors, take your time. In the end, if you allow yourself to make mistakes and take your time, instead of just rage quitting, things could go all right. So with this Mercury retrograde, just be sure you give yourself the time. Mercury is retrograde from April 1st through April 25th. So expect your April Fool's pranks to have longer term ramifications than originally intended. Mercury also conjoins the asteroid Chiron 3 times throughout this retrograde. I like to say Chiron heals by embarrassing you, a theme of wounding and then teaching others. So something about your voice, the persuasiveness of your ability to persuade people, your ability to win through argument, your ability to speak confidently in a way that's distinct will all be tested, and you'll have to prove it. Prove these things. Prove yourself through use of your voice, through how you communicate, whether that's how you move throughout the world, how you prepare items for delivery, prepare yourself for delivery, prepare yourself to deliver a speech. It'll be how you communicate your main character energy. This story goes through early May. The basic dates are March 18th through May 13th. That's when Mercury enters shadow, which means it enters the degrees that it's going to retrograde back through. And May 13th is when it leaves shadow, so it leaves the set of degrees that it retrograded through. When Mercury enters shadow until Mercury stations retrograde on April 1st, that's when things are starting to get funky. And whatever happens during this time is going to be reassessed, reworked, turned to liquid gold, and recast. Anything you have the opportunity to begin during this time, just pay extra close attention. Unless, of course, you have natal Mercury retrograde, then you're like, welcome to my world, and things might go a little differently. Sometimes if you have natal Mercury retrograde, then things just might begin during that time, and that's how that has to be. Because the way you communicate and move through this world is a little bit more like maybe long-winded or takes a little bit longer. It doesn't quite turn out exactly as planned. Leave room for things to turn out how they're going to turn out, whether you have natal Mercury retrograde or not. But if you do have it natally, just know that that's the way. And a couple of big things happen during this Mercury retrograde. It's a really important time moving through Aries. After all of this is said and done, maybe in like July or August, you'll look back on this time and the part of your life that is indicated by the sign of Aries in your chart. You'll look at this part of life and this time and you'll wonder what the hell happened. And that's because we have Mercury retrograde whilst in between eclipses, which is a potent time of chaotic change. I'll do a separate video about eclipses, which when I post it, I'll link it here. And eclipse seasons allow you to see things that you can't normally see, and they obscure things that you can normally see. Just like imagine the light of the sun during an eclipse. You can't see the light you can normally see. You can't see things that are normally lit by that normal light. Everything's lit by a weird, eerie light, and that can cause you to make some funny decisions. I'm saying funny because of the April Fool's theme, and Mercury can bring a kind of trickster energy, meaning like maybe not all that fun or funny, but stuff that causes you to pay attention in a different way or to pay attention to different things. And all of this happening in Aries, there is going to be a signature of leadership. There was a Gordon White video recently where he's talking about how the jester will call attention to mistakes that the king made, indicating that he's human. And I see that in the astrology of this time. And it might be that like some sort of lighthearted or offhanded comment makes a much bigger impact than you could possibly imagine. At this time, our words have the power to change the course of our lives. So treat this time with care. Give yourself 24 hours before you fire off that incendiary text. Or I've had things happen in my life where I leave like a chat window open for other people to see, and it changes everything. So dot your I's, cross your T's. If you have to do a thing where you're like, no, I don't need to review the instructions, review the instructions. And if you don't, and you're like, I'm filled with regret because I didn't review the instructions. That's what needed to happen. When the moon enters Libra, March 24th, through when Mercury retrograde conjoins the sun, April 11th. Normally during Mercury retrogrades, after the interior conjunction with the sun, that's the halfway point of the retrograde phase, things tend to be on the road to being resolved. And this also happens to be after the second eclipse. Eclipses always come in pairs, and that time in between this pair of eclipses is normally the most like everything turns into liquid metal and can be wrought totally differently coming out of that period. So March 24th through April 11th is like the time of intensity, the time to really, really pay attention. I mean, really, really pay attention throughout all your life. One thing that I see happening during this Mercury retrograde is like when you decide to be yourself, people aren't going to like it. When things start to change and you start to exert yourself and communicate differently, the people who've always known you are going to get uncomfortable. And that doesn't mean that you're right. That's just a dynamic that happens, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, regardless of who is judging and who's being judged. And around the time Mercury stations direct, just before that, Mercury conjoins Venus. So there's like some help there's some sort of like physical help or reward or affection of some kind, but it's from Venus in Aries, where Venus is in detriment. So it's like the least well-functioning version of that. So you might get some like paltry assistance right at the end, which is kind of like a, yay, you beat the level. Like, you think you beat the game, but you maybe just beat the level. Because all of that crazy chaos behind you after Mercury stations direct, so this is pretend we're at April 25th, all the crazy chaos behind you, that set you up to begin the quest. So now you will really be tested. And there's new leadership in place. Another very important thing that happens while Mercury is retrograde, it happens just before Mercury stations direct. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. This happens about once every 12 years, and it happens in a different sign every 12 years. For Jupiter, we have things like winning, positivity, things that are grand. On the other hand, we have Uranus, innovation, zapping things into existence from the abstract, zapping things out of existence into thin air. There's an element of surprise, an element of rebellion with Uranus, and like an experimental, innovative quality. Smash that up with Jupiter, which like this has been ramping up since May of last year. Now it's reaching its peak energy. A good example of Jupiter-Uranus energy is Albert Einstein. Both Albert Einstein's nativity and, meaning like the base tone that was set for his entire life, and the time that he received notoriety, like the biggest, most groundbreaking notoriety that affected us culturally for decades to come. Both those things constellated around axial alignments of Jupiter and Uranus. So he was born during a Jupiter-Uranus opposition, and the peak of his notoriety occurred around a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So you can see how it's like, it's innovation and inspiration and positive change wrapped up in this like unconventional, rebellious energy. Another thing I think of with Jupiter-Uranus, which can be something to be careful of because it's not all just like positive. There's a lot of potential for it to be positive. I think of risk-taking. Jupiter pertains to risk-taking, and so does Uranus, and so does this last fragment of Taurus that the conjunction occurs in. So there might be a theme of risk-taking. This makes me think of one Easter very long ago. I was at the Saddle Ranch in Burbank, California, and I rode the mechanical bull, and I was bucked right off by the DJ who controls it, and I was wearing a skirt, and I'm pretty sure everyone saw my underwear, and maybe more, but that was a risk that I took, and I just like immediately failed. The neighborhood that this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction takes place in, the astrology of Mercury being retrograde, and one interesting detail, Venus, ruler of Taurus, on the day that Jupiter conjoins Uranus, Venus, ruler of Taurus, is on the degree in Aries that the solar eclipse took place. The solar eclipse takes place at the point of exaltation of the sun, the celestial body that's involved in the eclipse. It takes place in the best possible, like 1 degree out of all 360. Mercury retrograde through Aries, persuasion, competitiveness during eclipse season, chaotic change is available, very bioavailable. Offhand comments that might be swept under the rug or forgotten about during a normal Mercury retrograde through Aries have the potential to change the course of your entire life and that of others. And then we also have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and Mercury conjoining Venus as a grand finale to all of this once Mercury stations direct. So all of this changing chaos sets up a beginning. During this, we also have a full moon in Scorpio. So we're really like, once Mercury stations direct on April 25th, we're expending a lot of energy, and it will be expended through November. According to Code Academy, a metaverse is a cohesive collection of Web3 tech that allows people to work toward an overarching goal. It's a metaverse by people who work on blockchain stuff. They consider a metaverse a set of connected Web3 protocols, all centered around a common goal. A world of your own. I keep referring to Aries as the site of the metaverse. It's the place where social media came to stay. Social media's integration into our lives was made very real 2010 through 2018 with Uranus's transit of Aries. And I see the beginning of metaverse being our new government, which it's not just a video game. It's a cohesive collection of Web3 tech that allows people to work toward a common goal. So that can be a government. And if you want to know more about the metaverse and Web3 and blockchain, then watch my cryptocurrency for beginners video, which I will link here. Mercury retrograde through Aries, the metaverse. Create a metaverse. Be the main character. More passion, more energy, more footwork. Cancer rising or sun or moon if you're born at night, then Mercury will retrograde through your 10th house, and the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction will happen in your 11th house. So your 10th house is like your profession. It's like what you do with your life. It's like according to what you've been given, what you give to the world. So profession doesn't always have to be a job. It's just like a thing you do in the world that grants status. And also dragged into this Mercury retrograde through Aries story, and that's also where the eclipses will be. Mercury rules your 3rd house and your 12th house. So your 3rd house is like your surroundings, your schedule. It's the idea of conveyance. It's like communication, periodicals, checking your sites, getting on social media, and communicating with people, not exactly publishing, but it's like your schedule, your calendar, your neighborhood, your neighbors, your siblings, and your 12th house, which is like mysteries. It's hidden matters. It's how you are undermined and how you undermine yourself. It's the place of hidden enemies. So those are the basic areas of life that this Mercury retrograde will affect. If you're a Leo, Mercury will retrograde through your 9th house. And that's like how you view the world. And that could be through travel, or it could be through religion, academia, spirituality. It's like the philosophical part of your chart, and also like the long distance travel part of your chart. And it could also have to do with legal matters, or just studying, or it's like the 9th house is like the long distance pilgrimage, or the seasonal ritual, as opposed to like the daily things you do in the 3rd house, which is the opposite place in the chart. And also brought into this story are your 2nd house of money. Mercury rules your 2nd house. It's like money, food, and your stuff, like the stuff that you would put into a box if you're moving. And your 11th house, which is like community, influential people, groups of friends, your followers, your audience, if applicable. If you're a Virgo, Mercury will retrograde through your 8th house. That's other people's money. So shared bank accounts, collaborations. It's also debt, and it's also debt because our body is a debt that we will repay to the earth. It's a resource that we share with the earth. So, and also taxes. And Mercury rules your 1st house, which is yourself and your body to some extent, and just like how you operate in the world. Like often you probably have the mic. And your 10th house of profession, which is like what you give to the world according to what you've been given. It's like the work you do in the world that grants status, that has a lot to do with your reputation. If you're a Libra, Mercury is going to retrograde through your 7th house of one-on-one relationships. This is significant relationships. So if you're married, that's your spouse. If you are in a long-term romantic relationship, it's that person. And it's also just other people in your life who are close to you. And Mercury rules your 12th house of how you're undermined and how you undermine yourself. So there might be something coming to light about perhaps a betrayal. Mercury also rules your 9th house of long distance travel and religion and spirituality and your overall philosophy. It's like how you view the world through having experienced the world, like through long distance travel or pilgrimage, or through philosophy or religious study or just academic study. So maybe if you're at university, someone at school undermines you. Or it could also be, sometimes astrology is very literal and it's like, this is happening to someone else. If you're a Scorpio, Mercury will be retrograding through your 6th house. That's like the skills that pay the bills. That's getting things done, checking things off your checklist. That's taking care of your health, the long-term stuff that you do every day to take care of your health, like brushing your teeth or hygiene, or just anything you do to take care of your health. And it's also the things that you don't do to take care of your health. So like behaviors over time that stack up and result in a net loss of health points if you were a video game. But the 6th house is also like tasking. You know who's Scorpio rising with the sun in Aries? Martha Stewart. I have heard her say, sometimes I like to see how much I can get done in a day, in a 24-hour period. So it's this place of your to-do list. And it also has to do with employment. So you can see how that hooks in. In ancient astrology, it was the place of slaves. So you can also see how like, it's this place, it's not like profession necessarily. It's like your job that you have to pay rent. And those types of jobs can often have effects on your health because of what they require of you. The 6th house is also a place that signifies pets. And this has to do with the original covenant between man and animals. Like dogs were used for hunting, cats were used to keep mice away from the grain stores. Mercury rules your 11th house of community, friends, like groups of friends, influential people. Sometimes the 11th is like hopes and dreams. It's this like overarching view of things. It's your audience, your followers, and your 8th house of shared resources. So that's like death and taxes, the inevitable. The 8th house is the place of death, and that doesn't mean that you're gonna die. Maybe one of your friends dies. I'm not saying that that's gonna happen. Mercury rules your 11th and your 8th, and it's retrograding through your 6th. So groups of friends, employment, taking care of business, pets, death. These are the things that could happen. So get things done. Take care of your to-do list. I'm not saying anyone's gonna die. The 8th house is like taxes, shared. It's other people's money. So shared bank accounts. Maybe a friend loans you money to take care of your pet or to help you with your job or something, or maybe you get fired and your friend helps you with the money or something, or an influential person that you know. These are all like these are all examples, not necessarily what's going to happen. The concrete manifestations will be within those categories. Sagittarius. Mercury will be retrograding through your 5th house. And that's like how you use your creative energy. So the 5th house is a place of like fun and partying. It's a place of romance. It's a place of sexual encounters. It's a place of art. And then it's also a place that has to do with children. So that could be your own children or other people's children. As you can see, like some of these behaviors that pertain to use of your creative energy produce children. And then children, how they operate in the world is a very like use of their creative energy way of operating. So it's like the place of creativity where you get to harness your inner child, except it's Aries, so it's Mars ruled. So it's probably a contentious place, not fun all the time. This will signify a reworking in that area of your life. And then Mercury rules your 10th and your 7th. So it rules angles. So very important parts of your life, like what do you do, who are you with, are going to be brought into this creative realm, and shit's going to go down. Or there's opportunity for life-changing there's opportunity for things to change in a life-changing way. Capricorn, Mercury will retrograde through your 4th house. And that's your private life. It's your family. It's your literal, actual living situation. It's where you come from, your like foundation in life and how you grew up. And it's like your ancestry, your extended family, your nuclear family, if you have like a spouse and kids. The retrograde will be the site of this retrograde and eclipse area of like section of time. And Mercury rules your 9th house of like philosophy, long distance travel, religion, spirituality, academia, and your 6th house of tasking, getting things done, long-term stuff where you take care of your health, like brushing your teeth, or stuff where you don't take care of your health, like not brushing your teeth. Like the saying, be true to your teeth or they will be false to you. It's also illness, injuries, and it's also pets and employment. So all these things are stacked together. Like employment, it used to be called the place of slaves, and it's the place of employment, not necessarily profession that offers you status. It's like the things you do to pay the bills. Those things can be connected and be the same thing, obviously, but not necessarily. So they're 2 different parts of the chart. And if they're the same thing for you, then they're connected in your chart somehow. It's also pets. Pets were per the original covenant. Dogs helping us with hunting and protection. Cats helping us protect the grain, keep mice away. So it'll have to do with work. It'll have to do with your religion or philosophy or school, university, or traveling far away. But it will all take place at home, whatever home means for you. Aquarius, Mercury will retrograde through your 3rd house. This is your schedule, your means of conveyance, physically or verbally, how you communicate, where you communicate, how you make use of your knowledge, what you do on a daily basis, like your daily schedule, also your calendar. It's like your daily rituals, your route from your house to work. If you drive to work, for instance, that's like through your 3rd house. Your neighborhood, it's the barista at the coffee shop. And Mercury rules your 8th house and your 5th house. So do be careful while traveling. 8th house is the place of death. I'm not saying that's going to happen. The 8th house is also, like if you're traveling to a party, your 5th house, be careful. Look for, really watch out for things like drunk driving. So Mercury brings this energy of debt, death, taxes. Doesn't mean anyone's gonna die. 8th house is the place of death, but it's also the place of taxes, shared bank accounts, collaboration, investments. Like if you get money from the stock market, that's the 8th house. And Mercury also brings this use of your creative energy and partying, and it's also like romance and sexual encounters. Those things produce babies, so the 5th house is also the place of children, your own children or just children in general, all occurring in your neighborhood. It's also like, the 3rd house is also siblings and aunts and uncles, so those types of family members might be involved. Like if it's the 3rd house and Mercury rules your 5th, maybe it's like a sibling's child, or like a sibling 3rd house sets up a college fund 8th house for your child, 5th house. Examples, but Mercury is retrograde. Things are changing. It's chaotic. It's in between eclipses. Pisces, Mercury will be retrograding through Aries, which is your second house of money, your stuff, like the things that you own, and food. So there will be some reworking of all these things. Maybe it has to do with how you make money or who you make money with, because Mercury rules your 7th house of one-on-one relationships, significant relationships of all kinds. If you're married, if you're in a romantic relationship, it'll be that person, but any just like one-on-one other person. And then your 4th house of your private life, your home. So this could have something to do with collaborating with someone else, making money in your home. It's also your how you were brought up, your family, your ancestry, and then like your nuclear family if you're like married and have kids, or just your actual physical living situation, and where your heart is. Where your heart is. And I think of this, there's a book called You Are a Badass at Making Money, and Jen Sincere, the author, in the beginning, she talks about how she was always broke and always a drain on everyone, and now that she makes a lot of money as an author, she says that people now say, what the hell happened? That's this energy. It's what the hell happened energy happening in your money, your stuff, food, having to do with your home and family and living situation and close one-on-one relationships, maybe close relationships with people in your family, having to do with how you make money. Aries, Mercury will be retrograding through your 1st house of self. When Mercury is connected to the 1st house, you have the mic, so don't fuck it up. But you might. Anyway, this is a time where you might. Just be careful and pay attention. Don't lash out. You could be subject to wrath, especially with Mars, ruler of this area, in your 12th house. There is the potential for you to seriously undermine yourself through something you say. So be careful. Mercury also rules your 6th and your 3rd house. So this could be like a work email that gets you in trouble and changes the course of your life. Taurus. Mercury will be retrograding through your 12th house. This is a hidden place. It's a place of hidden matters. So the place you go in meditation, that's, not a physical place, but it is a place, and that's the 12th house. It's also how you are undermined and how you undermine yourself. And ancient texts called this the place of secret enemies, because sometimes people are working at cross purpose to us and we don't know. And sometimes that doesn't even have to do with us personally. It's just like the path you're on and the path they're on don't go together, and they happen to be like, in a position to throw a banana peel that trips you up. May or may not be personal, but Mercury rules your 5th house of like creative energy, art, having fun, romance, sexual encounters that include baby making, which results in children. So the 5th house is also a place of like children. But if you go back to like having fun and making art, that's sort of like child's play. So that's this area of life. And your 2nd house of your money, your stuff, and food. So this 5th house, like fun, child's play, romance, energy, and your money, your stuff, your food, all have to do with this like 12th house story. What is that? Is that like an affair that ends up costing you money? Is it like someone poisons your drink at a party? Do you get roofed? Be careful. Pay attention. It's hard to pay attention to what's going on behind your back. I recognize that. But know that stuff's going on behind your back. Maybe one of your children betrays you. It doesn't have to be bad, but it's a time of great change. Gemini, Mercury will be retrograding through Aries, which is your 11th house of, it's like groups of friends, your audience, influential people, your connections. It's like your network. And it's a place of like, that you probably like vigorously pursue depending on where Mars is in your chart. And it will be reworked. Maybe there will be fallout. Think about back in early September through November, through like mid-November of 2020. What happened then? Some parts of your friend groups were probably Hulk smashed, and this will bring back some of those flavors or temperatures. Maybe similar situations with different people, or maybe slightly different but still conflicting situations with the same people, perhaps. Or maybe relationships that were ruined during 2020, maybe they start to come back and be reassessed. Just watch like what you say, what you publish, because Mercury rules your 1st house of self. It's like, the way you operate has a lot to do with you having the mic. And Mercury also rules your 4th house of home, family, actual living situation, how you grew up, those like foundational experiences, and like who you live with, your house, and your family. So it's like you and family and like groups of friends. I kind of get like a family reunion energy from this, but you see what I'm saying, where it's like groups of friends, but also it's family. That could be like that the course of your life has the potential to be redirected through a house party. Be careful. There's no greater achievement than the conquest of fear. The sun exalts in Aries. What does it mean for Mercury to move through this place? May the odds be ever in your favor. Literally, this is a very competitive time. Again, I think of the game Duck Duck Goose, where like people are all established in their chairs. The music begins and everybody's moving around, and you don't know when the music's gonna stop, and you don't know who's controlling the music. And when the music stops and everybody sits down, there's gonna be one fewer seat because it's competitive. And the tension's going to be ratcheted up. But it could also be an exuberant time of great change. And remember, there's no greater achievement than the conquest of fear.